East Hampton Village Zoning Board, we are live.
Good morning and welcome to the Village of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Friday, April 11th, 2025. We have the minutes from March 14th, 2025. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have one determination today for Joseph L. Rice and Francie Blasberg, 94 Lee Avenue. We have, in the application of Joseph L. Rice and Francie Blasberg, 94 Lee Avenue, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-13-5-4.1 for an area variance to construct additions to a residence that exceeds allowable gross floor area is granted. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second, please.
Second.
Gabby, poll the board, please.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. Barris?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons? Yes. Mr. Carmelli?
Yes.
We have one adjournment and, well, withdrawal. Guildhall of East Hampton, 158 Main Street. Following several prior adjournments, the application of 158 Main Street appears on the agenda for today's meeting, subject to the revisions as stated at the board's April 2025 meeting, that there be no further adjournments. Accordingly, this application is deemed without prejudice to refile. We'll move on to the continued hearings of the day, which would be Jack Levy and Francis W. Levy. Jonathan, good morning.
Good morning. So John Tarber for the applicant. The last time so this is a request to modify a previous approval, and the last time we were here, you asked that we revise the site plan to show what was previously approved and versus what we're proposing now. We have done that. We submitted it, as well as to show you that the gross floor area is exactly the same as what was previously approved. So the end result is we're requesting to modify a previous determination that would result in the exact same size house or accessory dwelling unit, but being pulled further away from the property line.
Okay, any board members have any issues with this?
I do not.
No, I think we're all good.
Thank you for doing
Thank you.
So a motion to, and who's sitting on this application?
We have Mr. McGurk, Mr. McMullen, Mr. Rose, Mr. Barris, and Ms. Fitzsimons.
Okay, thank you. So motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to the new hearings of the day, we have Phyllis J. Berg, 44 Georgia Close Road.
I'm just going to state for the record that Sky's the Limit LLC, 152 Main Montauk Highway is adjourned for today.
Who is?
Sky's the Limit LLC.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I went right over that.
And I'm just going to read who's sitting today. Mr. McGurk, Mr. McMullen, Mr. Rose, Mr. Barris, and Ms. Fitzsimons. Application of Phyllis J. Berger, the Phyllis Berger Revocable Trust, and the Georgia New York Trust, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-7-3-4 for a wetlands permit and variances in accordance with Chapter 278 zoning and Chapter 163 wetlands to legalize 3 slate patios. A 37.2-foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A-5A to legalize a patio 37.8 feet from the front yard lot line, where the required front yard setback is 75 feet. A wetlands permit in accordance with Section 163-5 and variances of 135.6 feet and 101 feet are requested from Section 278-3A-8 to legalize 1 slate patio located 14.4 feet from the wetlands and 1 slate patio located 49 feet from the wetlands, where the required wetland setback is 150 feet. The subject property is 108,183 square feet in size and is located at 44 Georgia Close Road. The property has 360 linear feet of frontage on Georgia Pond and is located in Residence District R160 and is in FEMA flood zones AE elevation 10 and zone X. This project requires approval of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and is and is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Goldstein.
Good morning, Andrew Goldstein, Ackerman Partners for the applicant. We're here to legalize 3 patios, which are made of, they're comprised of slate pavers, which are installed. They're not mortared. They're just installed on the ground. The property was developed in the mid-1970s. And is heavily impacted by wetlands as well as the other conditions of the subdivision. And the properties, the structures are in limbo because there has not been a C of O issued on the property since 1974. It's our belief that the two patios that need the wetlands application, and again, they're patios because the scope of the pavers exceeds 48 inches in certain spots. But there has not been a C of O since 1974. The pool was built pursuant to a building permit in 1992, and it's our belief that the patio was probably installed at or about that time. Again, part of the issue, the confusion here, we'll call it that, is because unmortared paving stones were treated in a more casual way in the 90s and the 80s. I spoke to Dan Weaver about it. He said he was not even required to put it on a survey until 2000. So that's where we are with this. It wasn't a question, I think, of someone being contumacious and just putting stuff in without any regard to regulation. The structures meet the standards for the grant of an area variance and wetlands permits. They're not they don't offend neighborhood character. They've been in the neighborhood for many, many years. The pool patio cannot be seen from the street, doesn't present a noise issue. As they have been installed, we cannot get the benefit of their presence without a variance. They're not going to, with regard to the two, the pool patio is not an environmentally sensitive area of the property. The patios within the wetland setback, I think removing them would create more disturbance than letting them stay would create an adverse impact to the wetlands. And we would say then the need for this relief is not self-created. It was, I mean, at least I think the building department at the time probably knew the pool patio was going to be installed, and I believe that the patios within the wetland setback have probably been there probably for close to 50 years. And so there's evidence that the building department didn't take much notice of slate pavers in the ground. The C of O issued in 1974 for the house doesn't even mention the more substantial patio in the back of the house, which is mortared and constructed.
And that's the patio that's facing the pond, the one that's
raised. It's raised.
Yeah. Board members? I don't disagree with the statement that Andy said they didn't put anything on surveys for a long time.
Can you just identify on the survey where the patio, the particular patio is we're talking about? There's the one around the pool.
Yeah, sure.
So here's the pool. The house is there.
This is one.
Yeah.
This is the other, and it's
I do.
not.
How is it? They didn't put these on surveys. No, they didn't. No. But
These are just laying in the dirt.
Yeah.
I just wanted to state for the record that Andy approached to point out on the location of the patios and the wetlands.
thank you. Board members, had any comments?
I just have sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, go. Your question.
You're saying all these patios are basically slate in sand,
Yes.
right?
Well, except the patios that are, the wetlands patios have been there for so long that the grass has grown up around them.
Right. Would it be possible to, the one closest that's only 14 feet from the wetlands, would that be possible to be taken up? If it's just in sand and not in mortar?
Yeah, we can take it up.
I think, well, me as a board member, I have no problem with the pool, the pavers by the pool, and I don't think I have any problem with the pavers up by the house, but I'd like to see the pavers removed down by the pond.
Okay,
I was going to raise that as an issue. I haven't had a chance to go on site, if I'd be happy to go by to. That would seem, just from looking at the map, to be something that makes sense.
no, we'll take that up. And then you can make that a condition of the approval of the other by the time we apply for a C of O on the property, that the closer patio would be removed.
Yeah, as the chair said, I don't have a problem with the one closest to the house, and I don't have the problem with the one next to the pool. So I would just ask that the one closest to the pond be removed.
Okay, any other board members?
No, I agree with that. One question though, removing them, you did mention that it would be disruptive to remove them. Is there,
I think just take it,
Well, they'll have to dig, what they'll have to do,
yeah, it's gonna
that's
be,
a lawyer's argument.
But the issue would be how and since you've raised it, the issue is in the removal has to be done in a way that's sensitive.
It's going to be done by hand.
Right.
It'll be done by hand. Someone will take a spade and edge around the grass that covers the patio, the pavers, and they'll lift up the pavers.
okay. Motion to close the hearing? Second. Oh, hold on, 1 second. Any board, members of the audience like to speak on this? Okay, motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Closed.
For 201 CHR Holding LLC, 201 Copala Road, we have Mr. McGurk, Mr. McMullen, Mr. Rhodes, Mr. Barris, and Ms. Fitzsimons sitting on the application. Application of 201 CHR Holding LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-7-6-7 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to reconstruct with alterations a pre-existing and non-conforming detached garage to contain a recreation room cellar area. Variances are required pursuant to Section 278 1B 1A to reconstruct and relocate a pre-existing non-conforming garage that is 23.5 feet in height, where the maximum permitted height is 20 feet and will be reduced in size to 1,233 square feet of gross floor area, where the maximum permitted gross floor area is 665 square feet. Variances of 15 feet and 11.25 feet are requested from Section 278-3D 6B to permit a garage containing a recreation room to be located 15 feet and 18.75 feet from the side yard lot lines, where the required side yard setbacks are 30 feet. A variance is requested from Section 278 3D 5A to permit a finished cellar where no habitable space is permitted within a cellar of a detached garage. The subject property is 23,240 square feet in area and is located at 201 Copala Road and is situated in Residence District R80. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jackie Hubbard from Timmy Latham, Shea Kelly, Dubin, and Cordero from Riverhead. I'm here on behalf of the applicant 201 CHR, Holding LLC for their property located at 201 Copala Road. With me today is Charles Sprazza as well, architect for the project, and I'll have him speak a little bit later. I just wanted to go through some of the background for the application and the project, as I know we had two separate submissions for this. I just wanted to note too, as you recall, we were here before you with an application for an ADU in an existing garage on 207 Copala Road a few months ago. 207 neighbors, 201 directly to the west. These two properties are owned by entities that have shared members in both properties, as well as 211 Copala Road to the southwest of 201 Copala Road, across from the flag portion of 207 Copala Road.
Can I just request that you just repeat that slowly?
Sure, yeah, sorry. There's
I'm kind of.
a lot of 207. So the clients for 201 also own 207, to simplify it, and they also own 211. So 207 is directly to the west, 211 is to the southwest. Even though it doesn't directly abut 201, it's just across a very narrow flag portion of 207. So we had been here before for 207 Copala Road for that ADU, which is being built which will be built in the existing garage on that property. So as part of that, Because of that, the clients want to use the garage on this property for both properties to do so. This garage on 201 needs to be redeveloped and reoriented. As where it currently stands, there is not a feasible or safe way to maneuver cars into the garage and to allow clean access from 207. There's a lot of existing vegetation and trees in between the two properties, and this will allow the trees to remain and the garage to be reoriented properly. Just to give some history of the two-story building existing on 201 Cove Hollow Road. It's an existing art studio on the second floor of a garage. It was granted variance relief in 1985, to allow for the art studio on the second floor. And it was appropriately conditioned on not being used for sleeping or cooking facilities at that time. Back then, it was constructed within the required setbacks for accessory structures, and it's oriented north to south on the property, in the rear of the property. Just for note, one of the surveys was submitted, there was a pool shown, the pool has been demolished, there's no longer a pool in the property. As noted in the 1984 determination, and as you can see from the surveys, the lot is very narrow, it's only 66 feet wide, and obviously non-conforming in the current R80 zone. It was non-conforming back at the time of the previous determination. In order to make it a better, safer use of the space in the rear of the property and to allow cars to better access the garage, the applicant has proposed to demolish the existing garage and reorient it, reconstruct it in the same location, but oriented east to west. As you can see from the second survey submitted, just turning it around. Additionally, as we know in the interim, between 1984 and now, the village amended its code to allow for detached garages with second floor rec rooms under section 278(3)(d)(6) with a few conditions, all of which the proposed structure meets other than the two side yard setbacks, which I'll get to in a second. I want to just make sure we go through each variance that was requested. When we initially applied, we based our application based off the denial letter received from the building department, which listed the need for 3 variances. Variance for the proposed patio, a variance for the proposed garage itself from one side yard. As we know, garages with rec rooms must meet the double accessory setbacks. Here it would be 30 feet, and then relief for a powder room in the second floor of the garage. Following that initial application, which we submitted in November of last year, we corresponded and met with Billy Hajak and the building department, and it became clear that the powder room is allowed under the code on the second floor, but there's interior access between the rec room and the garage that's since been removed. So we took that out per the code. There's no longer an issue there. However, it did become clear that we needed to reapply or amend our application for two additional variances. One for the other side yard setback for the other side of the structure, also doubled, and for the proposed conditioned space in the basement. The exterior plans are amended to remove the patio proposed in that initial application, so there's no longer the patio in the setbacks to the west of the property, by the western boundary of the property. But we amended to apply for both side yard setbacks and the conditioned space. Just of note, the garage as it exists today, even as it is an art studio, if it were recategorized as a garage with a recreation room under the new code, it would not meet the double accessory setbacks of 30 feet, as it currently is at 20.8 and 20.7 respectfully. The structure as it exists is in disrepair, it needs to be renovated. By reorienting the structure and rebuilding it, the relief required is not significantly more that the orientation of the building remain the same. Proposed structure itself would essentially meet, accessory structure side yard setbacks were not for the additional required doubling because of the second story. If we were to, which would only leave 6 feet based off of the width of the lot, which is 66, as I said before. In essence, the proposed building will not be dramatically or significantly changing the property. It will still be a 2-story garage with upstairs space and bathroom, no access in between the two. Merely the categorization of the upstairs space is just changing. From the outside observer, the building is proposed to match the aesthetic of the other structures in the property. It will be constructed in an area that has already been disturbed by construction of the existing garage and other developments in the property. There are no expected adverse effects to the environmental conditions of the neighborhood, nor will it change the character of the neighborhood. Although it has been a complicated application process, just based on the changing of the request that we had to make, it is still replacing one garage with another without cooking or sleeping facilities. and extremely similar to what existed on the property since the 1980s. As mentioned earlier, the applicant owns the properties to the west and the south. Directly to the east is a farm, to the north is another residential property, but all these structures are well set back from that property and from the road, and there's vegetation separating the property to the north and our property. Because of the severe narrowness of the lot and the limitations that places on the property, double setbacks make it almost impossible to construct this as a conforming structure anywhere on the property. The applicant is trying to minimize the relief necessary and has removed two aspects of the proposal that we initially would require variances as we discussed, the patio and the door in the interior. And the structure doesn't propose to increase the bulk on the property or the crowding to any of the adjacent properties, especially those not owned by our clients. The fitness area in the basement will not cause any detriment to the surrounding neighborhood environment, and of course would be conditioned on no cooking or sleeping facilities as well, and merely be used as a fitness area in that manner. If there's no questions for me right now, I can have Charles come up, and then if you want me, I can come back up, or if you have questions now, I can answer them.
Does anybody want to speak in the audience regarding this? Okay. Billy, can I have a couple of comments from you just to go quick on this property? Just give us a quick.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Billy Hayjack for the village.
Good morning, Billy. So the second floor on the garage originally was, they called it an artist studio. I think we called it something different the other day when we were there.
Yeah, it was an artist studio, I think is how it was.
In the C of O?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that's what
And the artist studio can be used for, what is that? I don't know the definition or.
I mean, the code doesn't provide a definition for an artist studio, but it's, I mean, essentially, it could be, presumably it's a finished space. I mean, the condition of the building right now is not great, but presumably that would allow for finished space, I would assume.
Any board members have any questions for Billy?
One question, is there a height variance being requested also?
So the building is non-conforming with height because they're picking it up and pivoting it. So the code provision that allows you to renovate, alter, reconstruct an existing building, that provision is as long as you don't increase the degree of nonconformity. And an increase in the degree of nonconformity is moving it closer to property lines or increasing it in volume and height. This pivots it so it makes it taller within the required side yard setbacks. So I'm not necessarily sure I don't think it's a height variance, but it's a variance because it's being moved closer to the property lines than it currently exists. Right, and it's being lowered, I think, by an inch or two?
Yeah,
Yeah, moderately. I mean, it's fractional reduction in height.
Is the existing structure is being picked up and moved, or?
No, I think it's being demolished. I mean, like the
So
architect, it's
so
being demolished and
A
reconstructed.
new structure is, I'm not sure if this question is to you or the
Yeah.
applicant, but
Go ahead.
you know, just,
Go to Billy, yeah, no, and then.
so, but the provision of the code is that if
If you
you
reconstruct,
to reconstruct,
which is demolishing and rebuilding, provided you don't increase the degree of nonconformity. But this does because it moves it.
and how does the basement issue?
So the code doesn't permit finished
Right.
space in basements of
Can you just
garages.
Can I just trouble you, because
Yeah.
I haven't gone through my zoning book.
Yeah. That's a new, so the code provision that permits recreation rooms in garages is a fairly new code provision. I think it's I believe it's less than a year old. And when that was adopted, we looked at where finished space would be permittable in detached accessory buildings in terms of pool houses and recreation rooms and studios. And, something that was discussed was whether or not it should be in basements. And that was, the board opted not to include that. So,
Okay, good.
And that was recently.
yeah, it's a new code. Yeah. Yeah, I think this will be the first variance the board is entertaining for at least relief from the doubled setback for a recreation room in a garage. Yeah.
Board members? Thanks, Billy.
You're welcome.
I do have a question. did you guys mention that this side patio that is closer to the west property line, is that being removed?
I just have to swear you in.
Yeah,
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Charles Ferrazza, Bartos Ferrazza Architect, 74 Montauk Highway, East Hampton, New York.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. So yes, so the terrace, there was originally, in the original design, a hardscaped terrace to the west, and that's now just been changed to gravel.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can work with what we have, but I'm not really, the workout room in the basement, I'm really not for, to be honest with you. I don't mind you putting in the basement and the garage for storage, but, it's just, I'm not for to be usable space or habitable space. That's my opinion.
In light of what,
Anybody else?
I would just note that in light of what we just heard from Billy about what the board did, it's one thing to allow for a workout room in the accessory structure, but the matter was clearly considered in terms of, in granting, in creating more flexibility in terms of that kind of use. The matter was heard regarding a subsurface structure and use, and the board chose not to. I don't see any compelling reason.
I have a question about this. So I wasn't aware, is there a new adoption that any structure that has a basement, the new ruling is that basements are not usable for anything other than storage in the main structure?
Which you said main structure.
I don't think it was a new, I think the ruling was to allow for, I mean, again, from what I heard, Billy said that previously you couldn't use the space, as I understood what you said, Billy. I'm so sorry, this is a question again for you. Prior to the board's action in this past year, what were the rules governing the accessory?
Garages could only be used for storage of vehicles and household appliances. And there was no plumbing permitted on any level of a garage. If you had a second story area or like an attic area, it was restricted to like attic use.
Understood. So
Storage.
What I understand.
I'm confused about the basement, sorry.
The basements can only be used for storage in an accessory building.
Primary.
No, there's no, we're not talking about, we're not talking about residences.
Just about accessory. Thank you, John.
Yeah, so it seems to me this is, clearly beyond, even the more liberal, recently adopted scope that was expressly considered by the board, so I don't see.
I've never been to an accessory structure in East Hampton, Southampton, that has a basement. I've only seen basements that is, I think, really rare.
I don't have an issue using it for storage. You also have the second floor on this structure where you can have the workout room if you want to put it. That's up to the applicant. I'm not telling them where to do their exercising. So that's my opinion. And Andy, do you have anything to say?
No, I was just wondering if, you're getting closer to the property to the east. I was just wondering if you talked to any of your neighbors.
We hadn't heard from any of them. We didn't reach out either.
So there's no letters consenting or
No,
negative?
we didn't receive any correspondence either way.
So
And
I was just
I don't know I don't think that you received anything either, but.
So I think what we'll do is we'll keep the hearing open, let you guys come back with some ideas, and
Sure.
is that okay?
We appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Is the property gated?
It is gated, yeah.
Through the office, I'd like to schedule an opportunity to go and take a look at the site.
Yep. Do with Billy, maybe you and Joe.
I'll reach out.
Reach out. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
For Seaspray East Hampton LLC, 20 Gracie Lane, we have Mr. McGurk, Mr. McMullen, Mr. Rose, Mr. Barris, and Ms. Fitzsimons sitting on the application.
Thank you.
Application of Seaspray East Hampton LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-13-12-12 for a permit and variance from Chapter 101 Coastal Erosion Hazard Areas and Chapter 278 Zoning to legalize the construction of a sculpture structure. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variance is required in accordance with Section 101.9 to legalize the construction of a sculpture structure that is located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line. A 1.33-foot variance is requested from section 278 3D8 to legalize a sculpture structure with a height of 15.33 feet, where the maximum permitted height of an accessory structure is 14 feet. A 19.7-foot variance is required from section 278 3A5A to legalize a sculpture located 55.3 feet from a front yard lot line where the required front yard setback is 75 feet. The subject property is 96,046 square feet in area and is located at 20 Gracie Lane in Residence District R160. The property adjoins the ocean beach and the project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Good morning, Mr. Bregman.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay, we have spelled out, I think, in the statement of in support, what our position is. There are two small and one slightly larger area variances. They are for an existing sculpture. I've spelled out the story of how it came to be because the Griffins have a history of being entirely compliant. They've always asked for variances when needed for other sculptures, which are on the spot, and for other matters where they needed a variance. They've never indulged in do it and then ask for mercy at all. This one came about as spelled out in the statement in support. Basically, the contractor who was installing it and the property managers all thought that the prior variance for a sculpture nearby covered this one. That variance was vague about a sculpture. It just said sculpture, didn't define any specific sculpture. It was a sculpture by Bertoya, and it was 17.9 or 18 feet from the side yard. So they thought that would cover this one. That was wrong. So we're now asking because this one is further away. The two variants that I originally asked for were for a CHA variance and for height variance. The height, I submit to you folks, is the easiest one because it's tiny. If you look at the photograph, which is on page 2 and 3, of the statement of support, and they are submitted separately in larger format as exhibits. But it's only the top 1 point, basically a third of that circle that pierces the height variance. So it's only 5.6 square feet by my calculations and using my high school geometry.
Let me jump in for a second. And it's heavily vegetated to the west. I was up there. You really can't see it from any other house. I don't think you can see it from the beach either. I know Mr. McMullen's been there also.
You can see the vegetation in those pictures.
And is it lit?
No.
No, okay.
And none of the sculptures on the Griffin property are lit. There are, as I said, that besides the sculpture that was behind it, if you look on the photo on page 3, you'll see a sort of a little alley inside that green oval. That's where the prior sculpture was, the Bertoya, which was also big and not quite as tall, so it didn't need the height variance. There are other sculptures on the dune, which got the variance and that's attached to the application. And there are two sculptures at the rear of the property, that is the north side of the property, which were a subject of an application in 2014. They're actually not, they look like they're in the backyard of 20 Gracie, but they're actually on a strip that goes across from another property also owned by the Griffins, which is their guest house. So there weren't variances for this property, but there were variances for sculptures that look like they're on this property. And those variances were for coverage and height. One of them is by an artist named Mark Suvro, who's kind of famous. And it's a steel sculpture that sticks up, one beam sticks up and again pierces the height limitation. If I can go quickly through the standards. And as you know, as you see from the survey, the entire house, a good part, most of the development, except for the pool house, are in fact seaward of the coastal erosion hazard line, which is sort of typical along that line, and they pre-exist, and there has never been an issue with erosion or detriment to the dune. The dunes have been very stable. There's a letter from Henry Bokunjevich, a professor at Stony Brook, attached to the application, who was involved actually in mapping the coastal erosion line in East Hampton Village years ago. And he basically said this sculpture is not going to do anything to the dune. And it meets all of the coastal erosion standards. He said, you don't really need mitigation. You can read his letter. It's attached. It's also bullet points at the end of my statement. You don't need mitigation because there are no impacts, is basically what he's saying. The only one issue is the location. Is there any other location? Because it's just on the edge of the line, which is on the downhill landward side of the dune, north of the house, landward of the house. And as you see from the photos, it's all in a developed area. Could they move it a few feet? Yes, they could move it a few feet and get it on the other side of the line, but it's not the place they chose for aesthetic value. And that's part of, and that's a real benefit to them. It's much more attractive where it is in their view. And it is what they consider a significant benefit. And respectfully, I don't think there's any downside, to that location. And moving it doesn't improve anything. It doesn't remove impacts. It doesn't make it less consistent with the community. It's completely consistent with the community, certainly the Griffins community and with the other sculptures. Sorry.
Does any board members have any issues with the sculpture?
Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going. I should have asked that first.
It's okay.
I actually thought about asking that first, but
I don't think we have any. Go ahead, Mr. Rose.
There are these large polished metal disc, right, as part of the
vertical. It's vertical, yes.
I'm just looking at.
Yes, yeah.
Looking at it. There's as I understand where, I don't have an issue with the sculpture being placed here, but the just question is a polished metal disc I'm not sure if it's facing vertical or angled vertical. Is that going to be like a magnifying glass for the sun going to come through? Has anyone looked at or thought about the issue of what happens when the sun shines down on a bright?
Well, it doesn't shine on it, and it's not on an angle, and it's not glass, so it doesn't go through anything. Would it reflect the sun? I suppose so.
I guess,
but there's
that's
nobody
the question in terms of. So if one were a neighbor.
But I believe Mr. Griffin owns the house on the right too.
Let me make the point, because I think it's something that has to be, someone has to at least think about this before it actually happens. You could have a situation, just from looking at the picture, and I'm not saying it does, I just want to make sure we're not, and this is, it's a 10-year, it's going to be for 10 years? Is
10 or so. It's a little complicated about when they die.
I understood, but the point is this is
it's a temporary. It will not be there eventually. It'll be back at the museum.
It should, in order to be comfortable doing this, I just want to make sure that someone's looked at what happens as the sun goes on this
One answer.
circular metal plane in case it could be, right, that you have a, theoretically, I'm not saying it does.
It's been there for 2 years. It was installed
That's
inappropriately.
okay, that's
So I think that's the answer.
It's been there for 2 years and there has not been an issue in terms of sun
Neighbors or
reflecting.
We haven't had any complaints.
All right,
It looks like the vegetation is quite high surrounding it all.
It is.
that's just a question.
And going to the east, there's more vegetation at the property line.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Anybody else?
I don't have a problem with this.
I don't have a problem.
All right. So, thank you, Mr. Motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
I wanted to say one other thing, thank you. I'm sorry if I'm
Go
too
ahead.
late to the closure. Just yesterday, Tom Priato, there was an issue about whether this is a front line on the western property line, whether that's a front line under the code or not. He decided yesterday that it was, and you've granted a variance for that. I just want to say that he's also, kindly as he always is, agreed to continue discussions of that. So that may get changed in the future. I'm hopeful that it will, because I think it should, but I may not be successful.
So do we have to open the hearing again to discuss comments?
No, it's already on the, oh, I'm sorry.
All right, so the motion to open the hearing.
So moved.
Okay. Second? All in favor? Aye. Tom, please come back. Yeah, come on.
Can you just summarize the comments, because that was not on the
Yeah. Yes. Mr. Bregman.
whomever.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Just summarize the comments because they weren't on the record, so now they're officially on the record.
Sorry. Billy Hayek, when he wrote up the notice, included a variance for, from the front yard setback, the front line, property line being the western property line of this property. Until 2014 and 2019, I think, Billy told me that would have been a side yard. It changed for technical reasons in the code. There was a change in the code. Tom just determined late yesterday that it was a front yard line. I have some disagreement with that. Tom has very kindly agreed to hear my story in the next week or two, but it's not necessary to do anything for this code for this application, because in connection with this application, he made his decision, we're accepting it, and you've indicated you will grant a variance on it.
It wasn't clear from what you asked previously. You're not asking us to consider the matter of whether it is or is not
I would have to make an application to appeal Tom's decision. I haven't done that for this application. I wanted to get through this application, then we could continue. I'm hopeful that my great persuasiveness will talk him out of it, but I am doubtful.
This has nothing to do with the hearing that we have now.
That's
so
correct.
I think we should, or at least give guidance here. We should close the hearing and
So, Tom, is that correct? This is a separate ancillary issue that has nothing to do with the application before us?
Well, respectfully, I didn't make the decision just yesterday because I let this go forward. I would not have seen that. I felt it would have been prudent to perhaps adjourn today and maybe have the board, to, as Mr. Bregman said, to rule on, my interpretation of it.
So is there additional relief that's going to be requested that's related to this relief here?
Not that I'm aware of, but if we're given relief from a front yard and it's a front yard, was it, we're going to come back and change it and it's not a front yard? I mean, I don't.
well, how have we dealt with it?
I mean, my take is that, the access is via a private road, and our code is specific as far as a private road being a street and being, Gracie Lane runs all the way down. We did, Eric and I did discuss ownership of that piece of, because part of Gracie Lane was conveyed to the property to the west. I don't see that having bearing on, you know, if it's actually a paper road or exactly what it is. My standing is that, you know, I would have not let this proceed had I not felt it was required variance from a front yard. Initially, we did speak and, you know, in trying to liken it to a flag lot, whereas it took access over an easement, but there's more to the definition of a flag lot as far as if it abuts a road or not abutting a road, and I feel it does.
So just to be clear, your opinion is, the determination is that the front yard is off from Gracie Lane?
Correct.
Which seems to make sense within the context of where the road is and where the property sits. And the action before us is to approve, for a variance within the context of that determination, is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And that's the front yard.
Right, and that's the front yard. So I would just ask the applicant, are you seeking to keep this issue open or not?
No, I'm not for this board. We've accepted his decision.
Okay,
We have no
I
choice.
think that's all you need. I think that's all we need to hear.
Okay, I just want, we may be.
Well, that's down the road.
Further discussion.
We'll take that down the road.
Okay.
Okay, a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye.